however long you feel like you need.
I don't need any time. If that's the case, we'll stay here. You need to answer one way or another. Do you want us gone or not?
What I want is to have a calm conversation here.
Mitch, that's what I was trying to have, was a calm conversation, but you're taking it way overboard.
I'm not
You're
taking...
saying we have something that needs fixed. You said you wanted to discuss it with me, so I'm trying to discuss it with you and get the details.
This is not a discussion. This is not a calm discussion. This is...
Because you're getting very defensive about it. Well, I don't understand, if you feel this needs done, why you don't just tell me the details.
I would like to help you understand this, but when I said that I needed a little bit of space, you still, that we don't need to have this conversation like this in front of Bryant.
A conversation about the dryer bench is not a problem in front of Bryant.
Again, let's
I thought you were trying to work on our communication. So why can't you just tell me what it is that I need to know about this?
And I was trying to tell you that.
Except you got upset and got defensive and said, I'm not going to talk anymore.
When you asked me why I thought I was better than anybody else in the neighborhood, that sounded to me like something that
That's because you were already upset and saying, you know what needs to be done and nobody else does.
I did not say that.
You said everybody else around here is not up to code. So I'm asking you, what makes you think that you know so much more about it than they do? I don't mean that in an ugly way. I'm serious.
Because I've done research on what the code is.
Okay,
now,
so could you just show me the research so we know what we need to do?
Well, I would be happy to do that. I'm in the process of trying to look it up right now, but the conversation just got heated very quickly.
Because you got defensive. You said you want to talk to me, but then when I ask a question, you take it as a slam against you. Nothing that I have said today was meant to be a slam against you. I'm just trying to, please let me finish. I'm just trying to find out what it is that you're trying to explain, because you're not explaining all of it. So they're legitimate questions and none of them are against you.
I'm trying to de-escalate this.
Listen to me.
I was trying to create space and either.
But you said, okay, you can't even decide if the space is for you or for me. I don't need space. I'm fine. What I want to know is what it is that you're trying to explain to me about this. And nothing that I said was against you. You need to not be so defensive and just help me understand the facts about the roof.
I told you the facts about the roof. The run from the center of the house to this end is longer than the run from there to there.
Okay, that part I understand.
And I'm not completely sure that running from the center of the house out here is up to code. And then that's when you started asking me why I thought I was better than anybody else in the neighborhood, which I take as something that it's not an appropriate way to engage in a conversation.
You took it the wrong way, too. You need to listen to what I'm saying. Every single house on this block has their vent out that side. I'm asking you, why do you think that it needs to be different from what everybody else thinks?
Because I'm not completely certain that everybody else in the neighborhood is up to code.
So that's what I'm asking you. If you think every single person in this block is not up to code, a lot of who are people, several of them are people like Kevin who are going to do a good job with their house, what makes you, show me that. What is it about that makes you feel that they're all wrong?
Because of the research I've done up until this point, which I'm trying to find for you, but...
Okay, so find the research, but I guess I'm still asking the deal about Kevin. You know Kevin does research about keeping things in his house up to code, so why would he not think it needs done?
The other thing is, sometimes on longer runs like that, you're supposed to install a fan in the middle of that run to help the air circulate better. Maybe Kevin's got that fan in there. I don't know. I haven't been inside Kevin's house.
So I guess what I'm asking is back to the first question, why would it be so bad to ask Kevin's opinion on this and find out what he has done in his place?
Because I'm completely capable of looking up the code and finding out. I don't need to ask Kevin. I'm okay at doing stuff like this. I'm pretty decent at doing stuff like this. If I get in over my head, I can always ask Kevin, but there's no...
But even people who are good at doing things still ask around and do plenty of the research.
And I've got my computer booted up here
Part of
to
that
do
is asking
research.
around. So I guess that's what I don't understand, is you believe every house on this block is going to burn down?
I believe that dryer vent fires are the most common cause of fires in the whole
That's not what I asked.
So there's a real possibility
You
that
believe that nobody on this house has any of their stuff up to code and they're all going to burn down?
I'm not going to say every house on this block is going to burn down, but I am saying that sometimes I wonder if it's all done safely and the best way that it can be done. And when you're talking about things like Lent fires, I want it to be as safe as it can be.
Okay, and that I understand, but what I don't get is people like Kevin and Billy who are always updating their houses. You know, I understand a few of these houses around here that people maybe don't update often, but a lot of these people update things frequently. You know, Mahis over here just had all kinds of inspections done on his place, and they all have the vent dryer thing going out the side. So that's what I'm asking you about, people like that who are conscientious and making sure that everything's up to code. Why is it okay in their house and not okay in our house?
I'm not completely sure it's okay in their house because one of the...
Except that he just had all kinds of inspections done, so you know it's okay.
If you're going to interrupt me when I'm trying to explain, then I don't want to keep having this conversation. One of the things that came up with our inspection when we had this house inspected was that the run from the dryer out there was too long. But what the guy did to solve that was he just ran the thing up to the cupola. Well, that's not an acceptable solution either. You got to have a dedicated vent. You got to have, and the thing is, running it straight up. What that means is the blower in the dryer is having to work against gravity, whereas if you have more of a horizontal run, you're working with gravity instead of against gravity.
Doesn't it still have to push it?
It still has to push it, but it's pushing it laterally instead of straight up, which is pushing something horizontally is way easier than trying to push something vertically because you're working against gravity.
So what's changed from 10 years ago to today that you didn't think it was important 10 years ago?
I have learned more about how dangerous this kind of stuff is as I've done research. And it's something that I've been worried about, quite honestly, for 6 months or so. Then after hearing Brian and Renee's story the other day, it kind of woke me up that maybe I need to deal with this. Now, I haven't said anything to you about it because I was afraid it was going to turn into a 45-minute argument about...
But most of this hasn't been an argument. Most of it is just discussing. There was one comment that you took wrong.
No, there's more than that. When I said I needed some space, you made a big deal about that.
No, that was because you were saying you needed some time to cool off, and you were going to take him. Well, if you need to cool off, I don't want you taking him by yourself.
I didn't need to cool off. I was saying
we needed time. Well, originally, that's what you said.
We needed time for the conversation to cool off because...
The whole reason that you thought that was because you misunderstood something I say to be a slam against you. And I was not trying to do anything to insult you. I was sincerely asking a question.
I just said that
Yes, you did. You thought I was saying something bad about you. All I'm asking is honestly what makes you so different than all these other house owners through here. That's a legitimate question.
I'm not trying to claim I'm different. I'm just saying I've done research and I'm not comfortable with the way anybody around here is doing it.
Okay, so you are different then. Because everybody else around here, some of whom have even had inspections, do feel that everything's fine the way it is. All I wanted to know was the understanding of why our place is so different.
Our house itself is not different, but I'm not completely sure that our way of venting...
Well, yeah, it is, because you just got done saying that it's supposed to have a fan up there and ours doesn't.
Well, I don't know if the others have fans or not. I don't know what everybody else does. I'm not responsible for what everybody else on the block does.
I know you're not responsible.
All I'm saying...
Most... Oh my gracious, I don't understand how the simplest thing you get upset about. Just let me talk to you. Everybody I know that fixes things like this, even in the Sunday school class, they talk with other guys about it and get other opinions and find out other things. I don't understand why it would bother you to find out with Kevin's. Does he have a fan? Where is his running? How are things working with his? I don't understand why that bothers you.
Well, I could just as easily look it up in the National Fire Code and see what the actual...
But that doesn't tell you what people who actually live in these homes have done. That's what I'm interested in, to see what's happened with one of their homes. Is his the same as ours, or is it different? That's all I'm saying. And most guys ask around about stuff like that. I don't understand why it bothered you that I asked that.
I guess it bothered me because I've been sensing lately that I'm not sure that you feel that I'm competent to do stuff like that. And
well, that's something you're coming up with on your own. I asked you if you felt comfortable doing it, and that offended you. Well, if you feel comfortable with it, look at me. Please look at me. If you feel comfortable and confident with it, I'm fine with that. All I'm asking you is there's some things that sometimes you have done in the past that you told me afterwards you really weren't comfortable with, but you felt we had to do to save money. I want to know, is this something you feel confident with, or would you rather try to get someone else? It's a legitimate question. If you feel confident with it, then I don't have a problem with you doing it.
Well, feeling as if you don't trust me on projects like this is not something I've come up with on my own, because look at how upset you got over the van situation.
Because with the van, you did break something. And I already apologized for overreacting to the van. And this one, I asked you legitimately. You've told me in the past with some of this stuff, some of the plumbing issues and some of the drywall issues, you told me you weren't comfortable with it. But you learned and did what you could to learn it anyways. I'm asking you, sincerely, is this something that you feel you can do or not? That's what got you upset to begin with. Up until then, things were fine. You need to not interpret past arguments into that. If you feel fine doing it, then do it. But I think overreacting and saying, oh, we have to be away from each other and we can't talk to each other or we can't talk in front of Bryant suddenly is really blowing it out of proportion.
This conversation right now is blowing it out of proportion, because it's a one-way monologue. You're telling me how it is, and
no, I'm explaining to you.
And our son is sitting in the room here listening to you.
And nothing that I'm saying is anything against you. So why does it matter if he's listening to what I say or not?
Your tone is telling me that your tone seems to be conveying you're standing there lecturing me.
I'm not lecturing you. I'm telling you everything's fine. You're not listening to my words at all. If you think you know how to fix this and you want to fix it, then fix it. All I was trying to get were details on what you're thinking throughout this process.
And I would be happy to give you those details. I just felt like the way you were asking was kind of had an edge to it.
How would you have rather I ask those questions? I didn't have an edge when I asked them to begin with. Yes, it got to have an edge later because you were so defensive.
Well, asking me if I think I'm better than everybody else in the block.
Well, that's because you said you knew more about it than everybody else. You were the only one that knew that they all needed to be up to code. That was because of a comment you made. That freaked me out a little bit. You said you were the only one that knew that none of these were up to code. Well, I think that's not a fair assessment. You don't know what these other people do or don't know.
In the future, when I say let's pause the conversation for 30 minutes, will you respect my wishes on that?
I don't have a problem with pausing the conversation. What I had a problem with was that you were making a big deal out of it because you were trying to say that I needed a break. I didn't need the break. If you need a break, then you walk away. But you tried to tell me that I wasn't allowed to talk, and that is not acceptable. I can talk if I want to talk. You're not my master.
Well, you can talk all you want, but if I feel like you're talking in a way that's not respectful toward me, I don't have to listen to it either.
And I didn't say anything that was disrespectful. Not one thing did I say to you that was disrespectful. I asked you legitimate questions about things you said. The only thing that sounded at all high-handed was when you started saying that you were the only one around here that knew that none of these houses were up to code. And I questioned you, asking you, so do you think you know more about this than everyone else? That's what it sounded like you were saying.
Everybody start your engines.
I think this entire conversation has gotten very inappropriate in front of our son.
Go!
What is inappropriate? I'm not saying anything against you. That's what I don't get. What you think is what is so inappropriate?
It's the whole tone.
Okay, first of all, a tone isn't inappropriate.
Sometimes after
And on top of that, there's no tone. I'm asking you legitimate questions. Why does it bother you to just answer a question? That's what it seems like you're defensive about. You're the one that came to me saying, I want to talk to you about this. So when I have questions to join in with the conversation, why does it bother you?
Questions don't bother me.
But that's when you started getting upset.
Well, some questions do bother me, like when you say, are you sure you can really do this? Or why do you think you're better than everybody else on the block?
Both of those, do you understand how I came up with those? That's what I'm trying to explain to you. The first one, can you do this, is because in the past when you've done repair jobs, you've told me later you weren't really comfortable doing it and you would have rather hired somebody. But you felt like we had to because of the money. So I'm asking you legitimately, do you feel comfortable doing it? That's a legitimate question. There's no reason for you to feel it's because of comments that you've made to me in the past that you wished we had hired someone.